had a bit of rain. Has that been good or average?
Oh, the rainfall's been great because it's got us off to a pretty good start in terms of the recharge that we're going to need almost everywhere. Although places like Hawke's Bay, for example, they had way more rainfall than we got, and so they're seeing recharge already, mostly because the aquifers are relatively shallow. So they're seeing really good recharge in Hawke's Bay. We're going to see recharge. It's just going to take time. If you look at the 2 rainfall events we've had sort of in excess of 100 millimetres of rain across the Canterbury Plains, 120 to 140 millimetres across the plains. If you go out to West Melton, which is the sort of the first area where we look to see where the recharge is occurring, once everybody realised that actually we don't need to irrigate any further, we'll turn the irrigators off. We get this immediate kickback because everybody interferes with everybody in the groundwater system. As soon as everybody turns off, the water level just recovers very quickly, and that's what we call a kickback in the groundwater system. And in that West Melton area, it's of the order of 1 to 2 metres. If you go further up the plains, where we have much deeper groundwater, higher pressures, it's usually of the order of 2 to 3 metres. So we've had that kickback. In West Melton, we've just started to see recharge occurring there, so we've had about a 40 centimetre rise in water levels in the last 2 to 3 days, or seen in the last 2 to 3 days. And that's sort of about the time frame we would normally see. It's been, if you look at that first rainfall we got back in early March, and then end of March, which sort of topped the soil profiles up a bit. And then suddenly we got that rainfall again the week leading up to Easter, and it's about the right time frame to start seeing that water come through. We won't see anything in the really deep aquifers for another 2 to 3 months. If this is enough rainfall to actually saturate the column all the way down.
Because it actually does take a long time to, and it gets less and less as it goes down, obviously.
Absolutely, yep. So we won't see anything there for the next couple of months, but that's good. At least by the time we get to July, June, July, we'll be able to see if this rainfall has had any effect in terms of recharging those deeper aquifers, which is where the majority of the groundwater is abstracted on the Canterbury Plains for irrigation.
Let's not forget the Bay of Plenty and the hiding that they've got, though.
Oh, yeah, they won't have any problem with groundwater. There's
in fact, they've got too much on
exactly,
top.
Yeah. So, they've been pounded. I mean, if you go into the Auckland area, it's the same. Up around the Pukekohe area, they've been catching most of their runoff water in their catch ponds. And they've had torrential rain, and there's been quite a lot of sediment dumped into their catch ponds on those properties where there's agricultural practices taking place.
So the onions will take a hiding?
Most of the onion harvest in that area was complete. It's probably the potatoes that are more of the issue up there now, and getting some of the carrots out of the ground. If you get into the Waikato, where those same big companies are growing, they took a bit of a pounding there as well. Their soils are a lot more free draining there, a lot of sandy pumice soils that they're growing on there, so they'll be more free draining, and they'll be able to get back on there and start harvesting again in the near future. Yep. Grapevines.
I mean, did we get through the season all right? There's some pretty varied reports coming in, Tony.
Yeah, if you listen to the clients that we deal with, the yields are not going to be high. That's the big thing. I mean, in the Central Otago, for example, they're talking 3 to 3.5 tonnes to the hectare. They've had to do a lot of what we call shoulder thinning. They've taken a lot of they took a lot of the shoulders off the bunches to try and even up the ripening. The harvest has been slow and taking time because of waiting for the grapes to just get right to go into the winery. So generally you think that low harvest yields high quality. It's probably not going to be one of those vintages this year. I mean, we had a very cool spring. They had a relatively warm period in January and early February, but then it's got cool and damp again heading into the harvest period. So it'll be okay, but it's not going to be one of those ones that you write down in your book, I must get the wines from that year.
Yes, so it's a challenge. Let's talk about maintenance.
Yeah, look, while everybody switches their irrigators off because they've had enough of irrigating, that's great. It's the time of the year now where people that have centre pivots and linear moves, wherever you are in New Zealand, make sure you've got them pointing into or downwind. We know what happened in 2013 when we had irrigators blowing over. Well, we just need to make sure these things are pointing upwind or downwind. If you need to anchor them at all, get yourself organised to anchor the spans. Otherwise, you know, if we get a large wind, get a high wind, then you could be in trouble again. And insurance has become more difficult for centre pivots and linears or irrigation equipment as a whole. It's time. You're not going to irrigate again. So if you've had a travelling irrigator with a lay flat hose, either lay it out flat under a tree, under a line of trees, and get those irrigators parked up against the trees so that they...
but on the windward side, not the lee
please,
side.
Not the leeward side, which we found out about again in 2013 and again in another year. The branches fall on the leeward side and they go straight through the irrigator when they fall. So get them parked up on the windward side and get them winterised up. If there were clearly things that needed to be maintained over the winter, things like if you're using surface water through irrigators, then the winter's the time to make sure that you clean all the nozzles out. Look for wear on any of the nozzles, replace anything that needs to be done. If there was a leak, make sure you get that leak fixed before the next irrigation starts.
Tony, thank you very much indeed.